America is entering a silent collapse, not through war or disaster, but through hunger. Across the nation, grocery stores are vanishing at an unprecedented pace, leaving millions trapped in modern food deserts. Shelves are empty, lights are off, and families are driving miles just to buy bread. Inflation, theft, and rising costs have turned basic survival into a luxury. What was once a quick trip to the store is now a desperate journey for food. From Seattle to Miami, entire cities are being starved from within. This isn't a glitch in the system. This is the system breaking. Number 10. Denver, Colorado. In 2025, even the heart of the Rocky Mountains isn't safe from America's growing food desert crisis. Denver, once a booming metro of affluence and expansion, is now witnessing something most residents never imagined: grocery stores disappearing one after another. According to retail tracking reports, multiple Kroger-owned King Soopers and smaller chains across the metro have quietly closed or announced closures, affecting thousands of households. Behind the mountain views and breweries lies a retail collapse hidden in plain sight. The numbers are staggering. Since 2023, grocery prices in Colorado have jumped 21%, while labor and rent costs have surged over 30%. For stores already operating on razor-thin 1 to 2% profit margins, that's unsustainable. Several Denver supermarkets have reported daily retail losses exceeding $5,000 due to theft and spoilage. Meanwhile, energy bills, once $18,000 per month for mid-sized stores, have doubled since 2021. Chains like Sprouts and Natural Grocers have begun portfolio optimization, a corporate phrase masking what it really means: shut the underperformers before they drag the whole system down. What's even more alarming is where the closures are happening. East Colfax, Aurora's North End, and parts of Adams County, home to tens of thousands of working-class families, are now classified by local data as fresh food deserts. In some neighborhoods, the nearest full-service grocery store now sits 4.2 miles away. For households without reliable transport, that's not just an inconvenience. It's an emergency. Residents are turning to dollar stores and gas station mini-marts where food costs 40 to 70% more per calorie. This isn't just about groceries, it's a warning signal. When basic retailers flee, it means an urban economy is breaking from the inside. Denver's commercial lease rates hit $33 per square foot in 2025, one of the highest outside coastal metros. Wage laws, inflation, and retail theft have created a perfect storm that even corporate giants can't weather. As national retailers cut losses, they leave behind communities sliding toward economic isolation. And experts warn this is only the beginning. Colorado's Department of Labor predicts another 12% of grocery jobs could vanish by 2026 if closures continue. Number 9. Milwaukee, Wisconsin. Milwaukee is collapsing into a modern food desert, and few are paying attention. Once a proud industrial powerhouse feeding the Midwest, the city is now witnessing a retail meltdown that's devastating working-class neighborhoods. In 2025, grocery store closures have accelerated, with chains like Pick and Save, Metro Market, and even smaller regional stores quietly shutting doors across the metro area. According to Wisconsin's Department of Workforce Development, over 1,200 grocery jobs have been lost in just the first half of the year. The numbers reveal a terrifying trend. Milwaukee's average grocery price index has surged 24% since 2022, while consumer wages rose only 7%. Meanwhile, store operating costs, electricity, rent, and security have climbed beyond sustainable limits. A medium-sized supermarket that once spent $14,000 a month on utilities is now paying over $22,000. Shrinkage, the retail industry's polite term for theft and waste, has exploded. Chains report losses of $8,000 to $10,000 per week per store, with downtown and inner-city locations hit hardest. Corporate executives have started describing some stores as uninsurable zones, as theft and vandalism claims soar past $2.5 million annually. But the human impact is worse. In North Milwaukee, some residents now travel over 5 miles just to buy fresh vegetables. Abandoned grocery shelves are being converted into discount outlets or, worse, left to rot. Food banks report a 34% increase in demand this year alone. For low-income families, that means dinner is often decided not by taste, but by distance. Experts warn this is how social breakdown begins, when economic inequality meets retail abandonment. Milwaukee's poverty rate sits above 25%, one of the highest in the Midwest, and rising grocery inflation is pushing families past survival thresholds. Corporate chains blame market inefficiency. Residents call it betrayal. The city once fed America's dairy belt. Now it struggles to feed its own people. This isn't an isolated event. Milwaukee is a mirror reflecting what happens when inflation, crime, and corporate cost-cutting collide. Grocery stores are closing, but what's really vanishing is something deeper: stability, dignity, and access to something as basic as food. Number 8. Miami, Florida. In the sunshine capital of America, the glow is starting to fade. Miami, the city of luxury condos and waterfront dining, is quietly experiencing one of the sharpest collapses in its local grocery landscape. In 2025, Florida Retail Data Group confirmed over 18 grocery locations, including major names like Winn-Dixie, Publix, and Fresco Y Mas, either closed or announced impending shutdowns across Miami-Dade County. The city's vibrant facade hides a grim reality. Ordinary families are being priced out of their own food markets. The financials are brutal. Rent costs for commercial spaces in Miami rose 41% since 2021, the second fastest in the nation after New York. For grocery stores, where margins hover around 1.6%, that's a death sentence. Electricity bills have soared past $28,000 per month, while insurance premiums, especially after hurricane seasons, jumped 37% in a single year. Add to that the increasing cost of imported goods. 70% of Miami's food distribution depends on international shipping, now burdened by higher fuel and freight fees. But inflation isn't the only killer. Miami's population boom has created a deep divide between wealth and survival. Luxury markets in Coral Gables or Brickell thrive, while stores in Liberty City or Little Havana are shuttering. Neighborhoods once rich in local grocers now rely on dollar chains selling canned food, soda, and processed meals. The U.S. Department of Agriculture lists nearly 22% of Miami households as food insecure in 2025, a historic high for a city of its size. Grocery executives admit what locals already know: Miami has become too expensive to feed. With warehouse rents spiking and wages lagging, even major distribution hubs are downsizing. The city's once bustling food logistics sector has shed over 2,000 jobs since January. Experts warn that if trends continue, Miami could become one of America's largest urban food deserts by 2026. Behind the beaches and billion-dollar towers, the city is cracking under its own prosperity. Miami's story isn't just about rising costs. It's about a growing chasm between appearance and reality, where even basic nourishment is becoming a luxury only the wealthy can afford. Number 7. Washington, D.C. In 2025, the capital of the United States, a city that represents power and progress, is facing a quiet collapse that few in government seem willing to discuss. Grocery stores across Washington, D.C. are vanishing at a pace that's shocking even longtime residents. Shelves once filled with fresh produce now sit empty behind locked doors, replaced by "for lease" signs and shuttered windows. In just 12 months, more than a dozen full-service supermarkets have closed across the D.C. metro region, leaving entire neighborhoods in a crisis that feels almost invisible to those in power. The reason isn't mysterious. It's mathematical. The cost of keeping a grocery store open in the nation's capital has become nearly impossible. Retail leases that averaged $28 per square foot in 2019 now exceed $45, while electricity costs have doubled to over $30,000 a month for mid-sized stores. Staffing shortages push payroll costs up 25%, and inflation has driven wholesale food prices to levels unseen since the 1970s. Every head of lettuce, every carton of milk, every gallon of gas used in delivery costs more than ever before. When a store operates on razor-thin profit margins, those numbers become a death sentence. The consequences are devastating. In Southeast DC, some residents now travel 6 miles or more to find affordable groceries. Bus routes that once stopped near food markets now end at empty lots. Families are forced to rely on overpriced corner shops selling processed, unhealthy meals. Food insecurity in the region has surged past 20%, and analysts warn the next wave of closures could push that figure even higher. Beyond economics, there's a deeper problem: urban neglect. As wealth consolidates in luxury corridors, lower-income neighborhoods are abandoned by essential retailers. Empty stores breed crime, fear, and a sense of hopelessness. The capital of the richest nation on Earth now contains pockets where children grow up never seeing a real produce aisle. It's not just a food crisis, it's a moral one. Washington, D.C. may still glow at night with the lights of monuments and marble buildings, but behind that glow lies a spreading darkness, a hunger that money, politics, and speeches have failed to stop. Number 6. Atlanta, Georgia. Atlanta, the city once hailed as the economic engine of the South, is spiraling into a shocking retail freefall. Behind the skyline of glass towers and booming tech campuses, ordinary neighborhoods are losing something essential: access to food. In 2025 alone, over a dozen grocery outlets across the Atlanta metro area have shut down, leaving tens of thousands of residents stranded in what experts now call nutritional dead zones. The city that once symbolized growth is turning into a cautionary tale of how inflation and inequality can hollow out an entire urban ecosystem. The math tells the story of collapse. Average commercial rent for grocery-sized spaces in Atlanta rose 38% in 4 years, while energy bills now eat up nearly $27,000 per month per location. Wages have risen, but not enough to match inflation. Even the cost of refrigeration maintenance, once a predictable $3,000 monthly expense, has nearly doubled. For many stores serving lower-income communities, profits evaporated entirely by mid-2024. By 2025, closures became a survival strategy rather than a business decision. The fallout is brutal. Entire districts, especially in South Atlanta and DeKalb County, are watching their last full-service food markets vanish. Residents without cars now spend $60 to $80 a week on ride shares just to buy essentials from distant stores. Meanwhile, property developers are converting empty grocery buildings into storage units and luxury fitness centers, symbols of a city serving the wealthy while starving the rest. Food insecurity in Atlanta has soared to nearly 25%, the highest in Georgia's history. This crisis isn't only about money, it's about survival. When families can't access fresh produce or affordable groceries, diet-related illnesses rise. Hospitals report an increase in diabetes and hypertension in low-income neighborhoods, directly correlated to the loss of supermarkets. It's a slow, invisible collapse that exposes the cruel divide between Atlanta's glossy image and its crumbling reality. The so-called capital of the New South is feeding a dangerous truth. Progress built on inequality can't last. When grocery stores close, it's not just commerce dying. It's the heartbeat of a community fading away. Number 5. Minneapolis, Minnesota. Once known as one of America's most livable cities, Minneapolis is now staring down a crisis that strikes at its very core: the collapse of its neighborhood grocery stores. The city that prided itself on community, access, and balance is losing its grip on something fundamental: the ability to feed its people affordably. In 2025, residents are watching entire shopping centers go dark as stores close one by one, leaving empty aisles and boarded windows as the new symbols of urban decay. The collapse isn't dramatic like a natural disaster. It's silent, slow, and devastating. The numbers behind this decline tell a disturbing story. Operating costs for grocery outlets in Minneapolis have skyrocketed by over 35% since 2021. Utility bills, once hovering around $16,000 per month, have surpassed $25,000, while the cost of basic produce shipments from regional suppliers has increased by nearly 40%. Add in the effects of inflation and higher wage requirements, and the result is catastrophic for retailers working on margins of less than 2%. For neighborhoods already hit hard by economic stagnation, the loss of even one supermarket can transform entire communities overnight. The hardest hit areas are the ones that can least afford it. In North Minneapolis, nearly half of residents live more than 2 miles from the nearest full-service grocery store. What was once a quick walk to pick up essentials has turned into a multi-hour ordeal involving buses, taxis, or expensive delivery fees. Families earning under $35,000 a year now spend an average of 18% of their income just to access food, more than double the national average. The social cost is even worse. As grocery stores vanish, so do jobs, foot traffic, and safety. Vacant lots attract crime, while small local shops that remain are forced to triple prices just to survive. The disappearance of food retail has triggered what urban analysts call a nutritional divide, where wealthy districts remain flush with organic markets, while poorer neighborhoods are left with gas stations and processed junk. Minneapolis isn't just losing grocery stores, it's losing balance. A city once praised for equality and opportunity now stands as a case study in how unchecked inflation and urban neglect can erase decades of progress. Behind its polished downtown skyline lies a growing hunger, not just for food, but for justice. Number 4. Chicago, Illinois. Chicago's skyline still glitters with the illusion of prosperity, but beneath it, entire communities are starving in silence. The grocery crisis unfolding across the Windy City in 2025 is nothing short of catastrophic. In neighborhoods from Englewood to South Shore, residents wake up to locked doors where grocery aisles once stood, replaced by plywood and graffiti. The city that once defined Midwest strength is now becoming America's newest capital of urban food collapse. The economics behind this crisis are ruthless. Retailers are suffocating under operating costs that have risen over 40% in just 4 years. Utility expenses for large grocery spaces now exceed $32,000 per month, while insurance premiums, inflated by rising theft and vandalism, have nearly doubled. At the same time, supply chain disruptions have driven wholesale prices for staple goods like rice, bread, and milk up by 30% or more. For stores already operating on minimal margins, these numbers spell doom. The closures are concentrated in the city's most vulnerable districts. On the south and west sides, where poverty rates exceed 25%, grocery options are disappearing at a record pace. In some areas, residents now travel 6 to 8 miles to find fresh produce or affordable groceries. That's not a mild inconvenience, it's a humanitarian crisis. Families without cars depend on unreliable buses or rideshares that cost $50 or more per trip just to reach food markets. The collapse of grocery access is rippling through the city's social fabric. Experts estimate that over 70,000 Chicago residents now live in newly created food deserts. Meanwhile, the closure of mid-sized stores has wiped out hundreds of local jobs, accelerating an already dangerous cycle of unemployment and decline. The absence of neighborhood stores doesn't just leave empty shelves, it leaves empty streets, where crime thrives and hope fades. Chicago's crisis reveals a chilling truth about urban America. When essential services collapse, inequality deepens. The city's wealthier North End enjoys gourmet markets and delivery apps, while the South End battles to keep basic staples on the table. What's happening in Chicago is more than an economic downturn. It's the unraveling of trust between a city and its people. When a metropolis this powerful can't keep food within reach of its citizens, it's not just a local failure, it's a national warning. Number 3. Houston, Texas. Houston, America's energy capital, is running out of power where it matters most, feeding its own people. In 2025, the city is witnessing a massive wave of grocery store closures that has left thousands of families stranded in neighborhoods where supermarkets once thrived. The city's vast size, sprawling suburbs, and soaring costs have turned grocery operations into a financial nightmare. Dozens of stores have either shuttered or announced plans to exit unprofitable zones, leaving behind empty parking lots and for lease signs as far as the eye can see. The collapse is fueled by economics, not accidents. Operating a grocery store in Houston now costs over 28% more than it did just 3 years ago. Energy bills average $26,000 per month. Commercial rents have surged beyond $31 per square foot, and inflation has eroded both corporate and consumer budgets. Food distribution, especially refrigerated transport, is collapsing under rising fuel costs that have jumped 45% since 2021. The result? Razor-thin profits turned into crushing losses. The damage isn't evenly spread. In areas like North Houston and the 5th Ward, entire districts are now without a full-service supermarket. Residents travel up to 7 miles for affordable groceries, spending $60 to $100 per week just on transportation. Many families are relying on discount stores with limited fresh produce, creating a nutritional divide that's worsening public health across the metro. Local surveys estimate that nearly 1 in 4 households in Houston is now food insecure, a staggering figure for one of the wealthiest cities in the South. But this isn't only about cost, it's about collapse. When grocery chains pull out, entire commercial corridors die. Smaller retailers can't fill the void because real estate and logistics costs are simply too high. What follows is blight, unemployment, and an erosion of community stability. Experts warn that Houston's vast sprawl, once its greatest strength, is now its biggest weakness. The city's infrastructure was built for cars and oil, not food distribution during an inflation crisis. Houston's grocery exodus isn't just a local tragedy, it's a national red flag. A city built on energy, wealth, and ambition now faces hunger, showing that even the most prosperous metros are one bad economy away from a humanitarian breakdown. Number 2. Los Angeles, California. Los Angeles, the city of lights, stars, and dreams, is losing something far more basic than fame: access to food. In 2025, the nation's second-largest city is plunging into one of the worst grocery store collapses in its history. From East LA to South Central, entire communities are being cut off from fresh produce as supermarkets close their doors at alarming speed. More than 24 locations across Los Angeles County have either shut down or announced planned closures this year alone. For a city of 10 million, that means hundreds of thousands of people are being pushed closer to food insecurity. The economic burden is suffocating. Grocery retailers face energy costs exceeding $35,000 per month, rent increases of 50% since 2020, and insurance premiums that have nearly doubled because of retail losses and property damage. With California's high wages and record inflation, food prices up 27% in just 3 years, the numbers no longer add up. For many stores, every operating day now means financial loss, and when profits vanish, closures become inevitable. The impact is devastating. In South LA, where poverty rates surpass 30%, families now travel miles to find a functioning supermarket. The nearest source of fresh vegetables or fruit for some neighborhoods is over 5 miles away, forcing residents to depend on fast food or overpriced convenience items. For the elderly and those without cars, access to food has become a daily struggle. Food insecurity across Los Angeles County has surged to nearly 25%, one of the highest rates in the nation. But beyond the numbers lies a deeper social fracture. The disappearance of grocery stores reveals a city divided by wealth and survival. In Beverly Hills and Santa Monica, gourmet food markets thrive. In South Central and Boyle Heights, shelves sit empty and buildings decay. What began as an economic correction has evolved into a moral crisis, one that exposes the illusion of Los Angeles prosperity. Behind the movie sets and palm trees, a silent emergency is unfolding, one where millions can't afford or even find their next meal. Los Angeles isn't just facing retail closures. It's facing a reckoning, a city of gold now tarnished by hunger. Number 1. Seattle, Washington. Seattle, the tech capital of the Pacific Northwest, is collapsing under the weight of its own contradictions. The city that built global wealth through innovation and progress is now watching something painfully primitive unfold: people struggling to buy food. In 2025, Seattle has become ground zero for the nation's grocery crisis. With nearly 20 major store closures across the metro area in less than a year, Entire communities are being transformed into urban food deserts. The data paints a grim picture. The cost of running a grocery outlet in Seattle has risen more than 40% since 2021. Energy expenses now exceed $33,000 per month, and rent averages $48 per square foot, among the highest in the country. On top of that, theft and security losses have tripled since 2020, erasing what little profit stores could earn. With inflation still pushing grocery prices up another 18% in 2025, the system has become unsustainable. What's collapsing isn't just retail, it's the foundation of community life. In South Seattle and surrounding neighborhoods, store closures have turned daily shopping into survival missions. Some residents now travel 8 to 10 miles to reach affordable food options. Public transit can't fill the gap, and delivery services charge markups that the working class can't afford. Food insecurity has surged to nearly 30% of households, the highest level recorded in Washington's modern history. But what's most shocking is that this crisis is happening in one of America's wealthiest cities. Towering glass offices and luxury condos overlook blocks where residents can no longer find a loaf of bread. As wealth concentrates downtown, the outer districts, the ones that built the city's workforce, are being starved out of existence. The divide between rich and poor has never been more visible. In some neighborhoods, boutique cafes open beside shuttered grocery stores, mocking the hunger next door. Seattle's grocery implosion is more than an economic failure. It's a symbol of national decay. It exposes how even the richest urban centers can crumble when profit replaces people. What's happening here isn't just a city's crisis, it's America's warning. When food becomes unreachable, civilization itself begins to break.